So today we have our TDS guests from the US of A. And why are we talking about USA is because we have our ICAN, the International Conference for Autism and Neurodevelopmental Disorders, happening in the US of A, which is going to be happening on the 17th and the 18th of April 2025 at the Omni Resort, ChampionsGate. And believe me, it's going to be an amazing experience because the theme of ICAN this time is Voices of Autism, personal journeys, professional insights. So you will hear from the individuals on the spectrum themselves. Who else can narrate their stories better than them? Next will be parents who will be sharing in their experiences, and definitely our professionals and doctors as well. What a combination is that going to be? Isn't it exciting, guys? So I am definitely waiting for this particular event, which is the ICAN. And one more exciting thing that I would love to share with you all. Dr. Temple Grandin, who herself is on the spectrum, an author, a speaker, and an autism rights activist. We already know her. She is going to be present with us in person. Yes. And also to join us along is going to be Matt Morgan, who is a former WWE wrestler, and he is a father of a child on the spectrum. And we have Thomas Island, who is going to be our end keynote speaker. Amazingly exciting stuff coming up your way, everyone. Stay tuned for more information. And yes, don't forget to register. The registration link you will definitely find there in our description. So do not forget to register and be a part of this exciting conference. So now let's tune in back to our TDS. Navigating autism together, one story at a time. So welcome both of you today to the Dolly Show. We are so honored to have you both. So this is what makes the Dolly Show unique. We have our professional who is Dr. Tim Lloyd. Thank you so much for coming in, sir. And we have our parent who is Tamarsha with us today. And we're going to discuss a lot of important things. And we're going to talk our hearts out today. So great and welcome. And let's start the conversation first with you, Doctor.
First of all, Dolly, let me just say it's just my honor and privilege to be on the show, to be part of this. I love what you're doing for the cause of autism and supporting parents around the globe. And so this is a true honor, and you're just tapping into my heartstrings. So God bless you. I'm so glad to be here.
Thank you so much. These words mean a lot, believe me. Yes, and we have our parent as well. And she is also going to share with us her wonderful journey. Great. So let's start with you, Doctor.
Sure.
My first question to you would be, you have been into the world of autism since the past 25 years, being with parents, having so much of experience. We would really love to know your journey.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. Well, I kind of came in through the back door as a marriage family therapist.
Okay.
And I still practice as a marriage family therapist. I'm licensed as that, in addition to being a board certified behavior analyst. But way back in those days, what you have to do pre-licensure is you have to find jobs that will pay you because insurance will not. So I took a job as a social worker at a developmental facility in Jacksonville, Florida. And there I was introduced to children and adults on the spectrum. Okay. And then a large umbrella in Florida of developmental disabilities, intellectual disabilities, which was everything from traumatic brain injury to cerebral palsy, just so many complexities. And so I was brought into an interdisciplinary team, working with medical doctors, psychiatrists, speech, OT, all of the specialties, and of course, behavior analysis. And I thought to myself, I love this. And so many of the families that I'm working with have special needs children. And when you have a child that you love dearly and have so many needs, and then you may have other siblings that are neurotypical, and the dynamics in the family and the stressors, I just felt in my heart of hearts, I want to pursue this. And so I was the young man that went back to school to become specialized in ABA, and I took that journey. But from the very inception of my journey, I have been working with interdisciplinary teams, families with diverse needs, and so to this day, I have just been honored, and it is my privilege to work with families and multiple teams. And so fast forward to today, we have a program here in the Orlando area. We serve about 5 counties, and we do in-home therapies.
Wow.
So we're not the clinic that you go and drop your child off to and pick them up. We're not the school. We go into the home. So our services begin in the home with mom and dad and the child. And we begin with assessment, and then we provide support. And many times our children have such high needs that we're providing 30, 40 hours of therapy in one home. And that's not unusual. And so the program has expanded beyond the Orlando area. We're also in Sarasota, and we've expanded to Georgia, your neck of the woods. Savannah is the area that we're primarily in, and then we've just expanded into Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And so I wouldn't call us a big box store, but we're not a mom and pop store. All of our behavior analysts and therapists are local to the area. So we're not the organization that's owned by a corporate entity out in somewhere and everything's telehealth. We are the in-person, home-based provider working with you, your other therapists, and trying to bring, trying to bring support to the family in that way. So that's the journey in a nutshell.
Fantastic and very inspiring. Super to know all this from you, Doctor. Yes, Tamarsha, over to you.
Well, like Dr. Tim said, thank you so much, Dolly, for having me on the show. I think it's so phenomenal that not only are you providing resources for autism families like myself, but you're giving us the opportunity to come in and speak with amazing professionals like Dr. Tim to ask questions for that guidance and help navigating our journey. As an awesome mom and also working with a lot of autism families, I really now know and understand the importance of emotional and mental health. It really truly matters.
Correct.
Because just on my journey, it's been a roller coaster ride. A lot of ups and downs. And just even going through the phase of when my son got diagnosed, you go through those denial moments, go through acceptance. Is this really happening? A lot of people tell you, your son's fine. They're just, developing late. And you have that gut intuition, like, no, something else is going on. And so just having all that and dealing with a lot of those life phases, it gets difficult. And so I love that you're a therapist and providing those services to families like myself. As far as my story though, so like my natural birth was fine. I had a regular 9-month pregnancy. Natural birth again, my son was atypical. He was saying words, he was reaching milestones. And what happened was we were doing our wellness visits, and we actually went to one of our wellness appointments. It was time for a jab vaccine appointment. And so, after that appointment that night, my son was different. He lost all eye contact. He lost the words that he knew.
Wow.
And, he's, just started hand flapping, which was the emotion of moving your arms up and down. He started having a lot of self-injurious behaviors and banged his head on the wall. Mm-hmm. And so as a parent, I was very concerned. So I called the doctor the next day and I said, something's happened, in my opinion, that, my son is not the same. And so I was told, autism and developmental delays just develop onset sometimes. You never know. And so being a parent, I was lost for words. I didn't know what was going on. And so the doctor recommended, we do tests, they do research on me. And so I put him in a program where we were going for months, twice a week. They were taking blood. It was very devastating. My son would literally hysterically cry, and I would have to be there watching this. And, I got in a lot of debt where we no longer could afford the programs. And so I had to stop doing the research. And as a parent, though, I was determined to hear my son say, I love you again, and to build that connection. And so I started doing so many different things to gain eye contact with him. And so I put on framed glasses, I would put on hats. And one day, because I didn't have on a big wig, I put on a wig. And that was the first day that my son actually gave me eye contact.
Oh, wow.
This is just a part of my journey, and it reminds me of the day we gained eye contact with my story. And so as I worked with autism families and I became more prominent in the community, blue is the autism awareness color. And so I just decided to incorporate in my story and share my experience.
Wow.
You have said so many wonderful things there.
Exactly.
Dolly, when I listened to Tamarsha's story, one, you were an advocate early on. You went to those appointments, and early intervention is the key.
Is the key.
We want to catch this early. We want to bring in therapy. We want to start supporting the family early on. That was awesome. And so many other things that you said. That's wonderful. But about the big blue wig, first of all, I just love it. But second of all, that's being creative. I need my child to look at me. I need them to establish eye contact. I need emotional connection. And to be creative and to think outside of the box. Correct. That is a beautiful intervention. And that's the wonderful thing, because a therapist didn't tell you to do that. Correct. That's something that you saw as a mom. And it made sense. It was intuitive. And to me, that's good therapy. I mean, the science is great, right? But it's probably about 80% art, 20% science. How do I artistically apply the science to make it work? So what you did was a great intervention, but it was creative and it allowed you to see results.
Correct.
Another thing that you said that I think is just so important is that the emotional impact on the parents. And so often parents feel a wide range of emotions. They feel guilt, they feel disappointment, anger. What have I done?
Yeah.
Am I to blame?
Correct. All
of those things. And so when I meet with a family, I don't have on my behavior analyst hat on the beginning.
Correct.
I put on the family therapist hat.
Yeah.
And the first thing I want to do in a home is say, Mom, tell me your story. What's the journey? And let them just unload, because we need that. We're human.
Correct. That's so true.
And then when we see the things that are concerning, the self-injurious behavior, the banging, the biting, all of the things that can come along with that, then I put the behavior analyst hat on. And we talk about how we can reduce those symptoms and bring support to the family. But we come from a perspective of heart and humanity.
Correct. That comes first, I suppose.
I think some analysts, and I'll be a little critical of my field, because I think they come across so scientifically in the beginning that I train and supervise a lot of behavior analysts, and what I will do is I'll say, let's slow it down. Let's take a human approach. Let's be individual centered, and the science will come in.
So
we're going to help you with the latest evidence-based, research-based procedures, but we need to connect with mom and the child and the family support system on a very human, heartfelt level. So that is so important. I'm so glad to hear that.
Wow, so true. Yeah, you were saying something.
Well, I love that. I think that is phenomenal that you connect with the parents emotionally first. I know just as a parent, getting that diagnosis and being told, you know, your son won't be able to communicate with you or be socially active again, that was devastating and heartbreaking. And, you know, they don't tell you that really what to do, or you feel alone.
Yes.
And you're taking all this in and you're like, okay, not only do now I need to understand what autism is, but how do I process understanding that the hopes, the dreams, the aspirations that I once envisioned for my child are now gone within a blink of an eye. And you're being told, you know, nothing can be done about it. And, you know, I just really think it's important for families and parents to have that outlet, to be able to speak to someone, to know, you know, what do we do now when you have that fear of the unknown of what's going to happen in the future?
You know, and to your point, it's not that your dreams have died. It's not that your dreams have been crushed. You have to reshape your expectation. And I know a little bit about your journey to the point that now your son can speak. He's in mainstream school. All of those wonderful things. So the journey takes a different shape, and you're going to see wonderful outcomes. And everybody's outcome is very different, very unique. There's no guarantees with this. But the very first thing that we want to do therapeutically with the family is to give hope. Not false hope and not grandiose expectations, but the fact that your son is precious and he is unique and he sees the world perhaps differently. And so we're going to come into his world and hopefully bring him out into our world. And so the change that you see is twofold. In behavior change, there is process change, which is that day to day, we're working on skills, we're working on a task, but then there's a breakthrough change. And it happens. I mean, I see it all the time, whether it's a breakthrough in social skills or communication skills or being able to regulate those emotions we talked about. And you've seen a little bit of the process change and the breakthrough change. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, so like I said, when I first gained eye contact with my son, that was a moment where it just brought tears to my eyes. And so after the gaining the eye contact, then now I was able to actually initiate, okay, you can look at me and repeat the words that I'm saying. So when I'm having engagement, now he's able to actually follow along with what I'm doing. And you can mimic when I point to something, or you can mimic just the, seeing the movement of my mouth. And so I believe a lot of that actually played a part in helping him to understand what was going on. Yes, and to communicate. And we also did go through, we changed a lot of his diet. So a lot of times people don't realize that nutrition actually plays a part in a major role in our lives, not only as an adult, but in our children. And I like to always come from a holistic aspect of it. Yes. And that's what I like to help with my families that I help as well. And so with changing his diet, we eliminated a lot of dairy, gluten, a lot of the artificial dyes. And just doing those things, he was able to be more receptive. Okay. And a lot of those behaviors did kind of subside. And then that's when we started implementing the ABA therapy and the speech therapy and the occupational therapy. And he's just been thriving ever since.
That is great. And to your point, the holistic approach is the best approach.
It's the best. That's true. That's true.
So it's diet, it's exercise, it's lifestyle, it's creating structure in the home, it's bringing in the therapies. Because we are emotional creatures, we are physical creatures, we are cognitive creatures, we're spiritual creatures. I mean, it's all part of who we are. And so to bring all of that together, because what I have discovered, and I appreciate all the varieties of therapies that we have today, but there's no one single thing that fixes everything.
Correct.
It's generally bringing in all of that level of support. And sometimes your child will respond at higher levels to different supports or even different therapists, right? But I appreciate you addressing the diet early on. Did you also incorporate exercise at all? I'm curious.
Yeah, because I actually got him a trampoline.
Okay.
And so rebounding is very important.
Yes.
So a lot of times, with the sensory processing disorders, they're looking for something to burst that in it, remove that energy. And so he would do a lot of regulation. He'd jump on the trampoline and then he'll calm down. And then we were able to actually start back working. And when he needed a little break, he would go back to the trampoline, and it just helps, I guess, release that anxiety that he was having.
It is because when our children have the meltdown. And when moms and dads, when we have the meltdown, we get dysregulated emotionally. And it's so important to learn how to bring that regulation back. As an adult, we can take a walk. We can take a deep breath. You'll say, let me do this meeting later. I'm not ready right now. But as a child, maybe they don't know how to communicate that, or even if that will. So having the ability to do the trampoline or to whatever exercise, and it's so good because they come back to a place of regulation. And what I have found is when you allow your child to have the space to self-regulate, they learn that skill. That skill is like a muscle. It has to be strengthened over time, and it only strengthens when we allow it to be used. And so allowing them to self-regulate, and that might be for some children to say, I need a break. I need space, or I need to go to the trampoline. Right. And so I am so glad that you've mentioned that. That right there is going to help so many parents because it is a need to regulate. And so sometimes children who even hurt themselves, they bang their head or hit themselves, they're attempting to regulate. So we want to allow them to regulate, self-regulate, in a safe way, in a non-harmful way. But that's what they're trying to do. Or you'll see some individuals, they'll do the rocking and things like that. And it's an attempt to self-regulate. So you want to take that innate skill that they have and increase it and incorporate it into your schedules. Because so many times a parent, we want them to get better really quick and right now. And we push them very hard without that break or that. And so as a parent, we have to watch for the threshold where we're pushing too hard.
And have patience.
Yes. Got to have patience.
Yes. And I definitely feel even with the parenting skills, a lot of times as parents, we don't talk about it as well because even me and Dad were on different pages at one point.
I understand.
And it put a lot of stress on our marriage, and which eventually led to a divorce. And I know that a lot of families that I work with as well go through that, where the dad sometimes, as the male, he gets numb because, a lot of those things when Jalen was younger, I can't play catch with my son. He's not interested in sports. And all those emotions, sometimes they don't know how to express that. And so just in your journey or speaking with parents and couples, how did you kind of help with that?
That's a great question because we all come to the table bringing something with us. And it's typically from our childhood. We parent the way we were parented. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't work. And we not only bring in our parenting styles, but we bring in our attachment styles. And some parents have a secure attachment. Others have a very, an anxious attachment style, perhaps. And we bring that to the table. And so part of it is, because behavior doesn't happen in a vacuum. It just doesn't happen out of the clear blue sky. And so I have to take into account, what am I doing that might be provoking or not provoking? And so to your point, you have to look at the family as a unit. So as much as we want to look at the child holistically, we also have to look at the whole family unit as a whole. And we do, part of my parenting is what I show up with. And so I have to evaluate that. Am I expecting too much? Am I not expecting enough? Some parents can be drill sergeants. Others can be teddy bears. And you have to be somewhere in the middle for your child.
Correct. And a lot of times we weren't on the same page. He was feeling kind of numb when it came to understanding that his son no longer could play catch or could run with him. And so I felt that put a lot of stress on our marriage. And so just being able to understand how can I actually help to communicate with him for him to open up. Because I know I hear where a lot of families say that they have trouble with the dad or the male opening up, actually saying how they feel. And so they're holding in all these emotions. And as the parents, you're not able to actually be on one accord.
You're right. That does seem to be a problem. I know that for many parents, whether they're dads or moms, sometimes we are in denial. This can't be so. This is not my dream. This is not what I thought. My son is fine. He is okay. He does not have. And so what I do is I try to have sessions with mom and dad when the child's not there. Because one, I don't want the child to always think that we're talking about them.
Correct.
And I want to be able to kind of engage mom and dad to see where we are. And then one of the key things is when the therapist comes into the home, I don't want mom and dad in the kitchen or in the back room. I want them in the session because we're going to model how we interact and we're going to model how we build skills. And so for some of it, especially if you have one parent that's a little bit resistant to the diagnosis, to the therapy, to the therapist coming into the home, you have to kind of build trust. And it takes a minute to do that. And it would put stress, it does put stress in every relationship. Relationships have enough difficulties as it is, right? And then when you put in the needs of complex, medical needs in your home as well, it can seem overwhelming. But I can tell you that once you get past that, if the couple can get past that, some of the most beautiful parenting takes place when they can get on the same page. And when they get past that conflict stage, I'll call it, they can really build an even stronger relationship and a stronger marriage because they're on the same page. But it takes time. And so the parent has to be listened to. They have to be heard as well as the child. That's a big piece of this. I also would say that for every parent, when you learn about the diagnosis and you learn that, okay, this is the reality, this is the journey that we will be taking, you want to educate yourself. You want to go online. You want to hear what others are saying. You want to read the books. You want to listen to the podcast. You want to do all of those things. And so the journey of having a child with special needs of any type is a journey now that you have entered into where that you will be a lifelong learner to be effective and to really give your child the best supports. And so that would be my encouragement to every parent, is to take a deep dive into what the diagnosis is, what's this therapy about, get to know your therapist, and all of those types of things.
Yeah, so I love that. Thank you so much, Dr. Lloyd.
goodness.
That really is, yes.
Let me ask you this. What do you need from a mom? What do you find most helpful from a therapist of any sort?
I definitely think being able to know that it's okay to still take that time for yourself.
Yeah.
As women and parents, especially mothers, a lot is placed on us.
Yes.
Not only are you providing, cooking dinner, making sure the children are okay, making sure your spouse is fine, and then just having that moment to feel like you can move saw and let go without being judged. Because
Absolutely.
not only is it normalizing your household, but being able to have your friends and family understand what's going on. There's been plenty of times where we've gone to birthday parties when he was younger, or just events, and they didn't quite understand why I needed to leave early.
Right.
Or why my son was, not participating or with all the other kids. And especially when I changed his diet, why your son can't have ice cream and cake.
Right.
And so, it's this reality of if your son is not participating in these things, then now you're being judged or criticized as a parent when you're out in public. And people think, you need to, because autism is that disability where it's unseen. And so a lot of times people don't realize that something is wrong with their child until they actually start to see the actions and the motions of what they're doing. And so just knowing that it's okay to take that breath and have that moment where you can relax and say, you're still okay and you're doing a great job.
And so, Tamarsha, it's overwhelming, right? You're doing everything. It's not selfish to take care of yourself. Self-care is not selfish. And sometimes you need a break and you need to pace yourself because it's overwhelming. Yeah. And especially if the household moves to one parent versus two parents. So don't be too hard on yourself. You need a break. What I find a lot in homes is parental burnout. I mean, they're just overwhelmed, exhausted, and it's hard to be focused and to pay attention to the things that you really need to at that point.
Yes,
like I pour out of an empty cup.
Yes.
So you need to be full.
Yes.
To be able to, give the best to your child.
Absolutely.
Yes, like I remember after I fell in a phase of depression, and I even had a mini heart attack. I was so stressed out.
Goodness.
And a lot of people don't know that, but it definitely, put a lot on me. I had gained over 100 pounds, and so, just the lifestyle I was living was horrible, and it was like I was pouring all this energy into my children, but I was neglecting myself.
Absolutely.
And so,
it happens, and rightfully so. But your child will thrive at higher levels when you are healthy. It takes a healthy parent to raise a healthy child, and so that's a lesson we sometimes learn late on in the game. But I'm glad that you've learned that lesson and you've learned the value of taking a break and a pause. And the dishes will get done when they get done. But you can't wait. So it's little things like sleeping right and eating right and having a schedule that really does make a difference. And so not only do your children need that, but you need that. Sometimes parents, though, don't have that luxury because everything sits on them. And so many of our families have limited support systems. If you have grandparents and aunts and uncles and friends, you are indeed blessed. But if you don't have that, then you have to be creative on how to take breaks and to kind of work that in. Another thing that you had mentioned is that you went into some pretty serious debt early on because of the therapies. Insurance doesn't pay for everything, does it?
No.
So talk to me about that side of it. I know it's a burden that a lot of parents face, and it's a huge challenge.
Yeah, so not only, like I said, are you dealing with now trying to help regulate your child and feed them, now you're worried about how am I going to pay my bills? Putting the food on the table. When you go through these different things, I even had where my lights had got cut off. So it was, am I going to have lights on or am I going to be taking my son to therapy? And you're trying to choose. And it's not a good feeling.
It's not, and I can tell you as a business owner, a provider of therapy, and we have a lot of staff and so forth like that. So you have overhead, but we've just made a business decision that if someone's insurance goes offline or some other catastrophe happens, that we're going to stay in there. I mean, we have done that countless times. I can't tell you, it's not the best business model, but it's the human thing to do. And so we have definitely gone the extra mile with families, and you have to, and that's just the advantage of a company that's owned and operated by therapists rather than corporate suits.
Yeah.
So anyway, I mean, I understand what that feels like. And then there are families with no insurance, right? They're just under-resourced and they have absolutely nothing. And so it can be really challenging. I know that in our area there are a lot of great organizations, everything from faith-based organizations to community-based organizations, but not everybody has those resources. Okay. And it does break my heart to see the family units struggle and suffer.
Well, I love that you give families the opportunity to, not only keep their therapy options open, but you're working with them financially. And so that definitely is an important factor because you never want to have to feel like you have to choose between your child and their health. Mm-hmm. And so I love that you're doing that with your company.
Yeah, we're trying to be creative. Recently, I had a pediatrician and some families reach out to us from Egypt, from the Cairo area. And in Cairo, the culture is such that, the very wealthy have access to services. Everybody else has nothing. You have hospitalizations. So if a child is experiencing self-injurious behavior or something like that, they go to the hospital and typically they're over-medicated. And so we are trying to be creative and trying to look at how can we help under-resourced areas. And I don't know if I have the answer yet, but I certainly have the heart for it.
At least you've taken the initiative and you are trying to address this is commendable.
Yeah. I have a wonderful group of Egyptian families that have been in communication with us, and I just don't know where we're going with that, and I'm not sure the way yet.
I really don't know, but I just recently went to Egypt.
Okay.
Because Adidas, they invited us for a sensitization program for the employees. Mm-hmm. Because they are seeing more and more children of the employees who are on the spectrum.
Yes.
Also, they're seeing more and more employees probably having ADHD, or they're thinking that, they can see the symptoms of autism in the employees. So they thought that sensitizing the employees is become the need of the hour. So yes, I met this organization called Kippo, if I really don't know.
Okay.
They're also doing the same school-based, home-based services for these children. So yeah, I just recently went there. So whatever you're talking, I can totally resonate to that and connect, because just recently we connected with them.
That's wonderful. This past year, we had a young man on the spectrum that I had dealt with personally, and he was in Guatemala. Same type of situation, no services to speak of, but we were doing Zoom conferences with him and making some good progress. He was 20 years old, just entering into college, but having a lot of typical issues with college and adapting to the program and so forth like that. But But I think that's truly a heartfelt need of mine. How do we help families that don't have the resources?
Correct.
Yes, and I love that you provide executive leadership counseling, because as now put in the role of as an influencer and a leader, I do have a lot of families that I speak with, and a lot of times they're contemplating suicide.
Yes.
And that's really serious when you have a lot of families with special needs. So just not only now, sometimes getting over my own personal experiences and when I'm feeling overwhelmed, but just dealing with that and being able to communicate and keep the energy up and be a motivator for those families.
Absolutely. And the children feel the stress too. I mean, this past year, I was brought into a case that was out of our state, but I was brought in as a consultant, and it was a 11-year-old child on the spectrum, discharged from hospital stabilization, which is what they do in the United States. Long story short, he jumps out of a 3-story window at his home. And he lived. He's alive. He's going through therapy and so forth, but 11-year-old carrying all that stress. And that was his only resolve that he could see at the time. And so this is a real thing. People do get overwhelmed, the parents, the children. And so I advocate for, having a well-rounded support system. Let's talk about everything. Let's don't leave anything off the table as far as our conversations, because our families, our children, they do struggle. And I love the success stories. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. I can talk about those all day long. But the when in that particular situation, when the system fails a child, breaks my heart. And so we want to be very sensitive to all of the needs.
So one question I would like to ask you, Tamarsha. So you mentioned that after the vaccination is what you think things went wrong. So, can we talk about that? Do you think it was because of the vaccination? We can definitely
talk about that.
Well, I definitely think I don't want to say it was solely the vaccination, but I do feel that the vaccination, now that I have an understanding of how vaccines work, that maybe what was in there wasn't actually enough to where my son could maybe detox it out of his body. And so a lot of times environmental factors, and then what they have going on, sometimes that vaccine schedule is too close together.
Yes.
And so the body doesn't have time to actually release it and process it. And so I do feel that, I'm not sure if it's actually the vaccine, but when it's given in such abundance or so frequently, that it does play a major part. And so I believe that a lot of times that before I feel that it shouldn't be a generic thing that everyone should get. I feel that the person should be maybe tested to see if their body can take the vaccine or handle the vaccine. And so I feel that now a lot of children, because of our diets now, because of just generational how we're developing, that their bodies are not able to actually detox it. And so when that mercury that's in the vaccinations and all those leads and different things that the combinations that are in it gets stuck within their body. And so it does lead to, now you have those symptoms of where they're head banging or where they're flapping their arms, because mercury poisoning, lead poisoning resembles a lot of those same scenarios. And so a lot of those things are in the vaccinations. And when your body can't remove it fast enough, then I feel like it gets stuck and it gets trapped. And it does cause damage. And I don't like to say that is the main cause, but I do feel that along with maybe everybody's certain people's genetic makeup causes that.
Wow. I can't speak to the vaccines because I'm not a medical doctor, but I will say every parent should do their homework. I can tell you from a therapist's perspective that I think many times our children are over-medicated in an effort to reduce challenging behaviors or harmful behaviors. And I think every parent must do their due diligence to study and to research this out and make the best decision for your child. I mean, I don't think we can paint a wide brush and say this is what everybody should do. But I think you have the obligation, the duty as a parent to study this out, to have clear conscience of the decisions that you make. So that's my thoughts on that in a nutshell.
Do you have where you hear a lot of families have said that as well?
Yes. We recently, almost out of the 30 podcasts that we have shot, we got 3 parents who said, you are the 4th one, who said that yes, they took the vaccination, and since then is when they started to, the behaviors started changing, and the eye contact was lost, the communication, the verb, they lost words. So
Wow.
We have had parents who have said this. That's why, but the same, they don't come up clearly because it's still unknown that we can attribute it completely, or because there's no study or any science that has still proven it. So
I think we're all concerned and should be cautious with all of these things, right?
True.
And I think to your point about genetics, we've come so far with that you can, especially with the medication, you can do a genetic screening to see which medications metabolize best and so forth like that in your child's system. All of that being said is do your due diligence.
Correct.
Yeah, you've got too much at risk not to.
Yes.
So you are a naturopathy practitioner.
Yes.
So you have your career. So we would love to know about that.
Well, I've always been in the health field. I'm in the dental field. And so I've always worked with autism individuals in the dental space. And like I said, I feel like God was always leading me to this journey. A lot of times they would, just always gravitate towards me, and it made it easier to get through their dental procedures. And so when I had my son and now going through this journey, it's like, okay, God, what are you speaking to me? And so with Jalen, after we've kind of gotten our progress with the eye contact and then working with him, he said his first words again at the age of 5. And so he used to be in self-contained classes, and a lot of those students, their parents were saying, your son is changing. What are you doing? And so, I started telling them what we were doing at home with the diet changes and different techniques. And then their children started to improve. And so it kind of became, that's what became the foundation of when I now have the Awesome Life Institute, where we do help with holistic healthcare and providing those services and recommendations for parents. And so that's kind of how that journey started. We have online courses, and then
That's wonderful.
Yes.
And you started this all on your own?
Yes.
So if I'm a parent, I come to your center, and tell me how services begin. What does that look like for a parental experience?
Well, that's why I was saying when it comes to emotional mental health, we always start with the parents first.
Okay.
Because as a parent, just going through my own journey, if you aren't mentally and emotionally at a place of acceptance where you're ready to say, I now can provide the energy to help my child, then we're not going to move forward anywhere. So we definitely have to make sure the parents are on the mindset of, I now can actually help my child. I understand what autism is. I have that hope, like Dr. Tim said. I don't have that fear of the unknown anymore. And so once the parents are on board, then we actually go through where we help the parents learn the diet techniques, and you start to eliminate and go through a detoxification process, because like I said, with the vaccines, I feel like a lot of times the body has things in it, that toxins that we need to remove. And so we go through the detoxification phases. We go through where we're learning different supplements, which foods we need to be incorporating, which foods we need to be eliminating, because certain vitamins aid with helping eye contact. Vitamin A alone, a lot of people don't know it's good for eye contact. And so we recommend those recommendations that parents can take. And then once we go through so many weeks of that, now we're actually doing where we're doing pairing, and we're able to have eye contact. So now we have pairing where your child can actually mimic what you're doing, and they're able to actually learn. And then that's when, I partner with a speech therapist, occupational therapist, ABA therapy, and we just kind of, like I said, put everything together, and the child really starts to have progression.
That's tremendous.
Fantastic. So nice, because this as well is a proper holistic approach.
Yes.
Like putting all the elements into place, and fantastic.
Nutrition is a big piece of that.
Yes,
for
nutrition
sure.
is so important. We never talk much about it, but yes, there is that is one topic I would love to have next on the podcast, just dedicatedly on diet.
Yes.
Because that is a very important component. We wake up, we put something in our mouths, and it goes on the entire day we are eating. So that is a very important component of life.
And it's challenging for families to change because so many of our eating habits are cultural and they're out of convenience. And wow, so no more drive-through food.
Well, definitely chicken nuggets. That was our best friend for a long time.
And then most parents.
Yes.
And also, doctor, you have 150 professionals under you, and you train professionals as well.
Yes.
So we would love to know a little bit about that as well.
Well, I love what I do. So it's wonderful. So many of our what we call registered behavior technicians or behavior techs. Many of them are in school, online schools, to become either an ABA therapist or a speech therapist. And so we have actually developed a program where they are completing internships and practicums within our program, and we provide all of the supervision for the ABA on that side of it. And so we're very proud of that. But an interesting thing that has happened over the last many years is a parent that has a child receiving services, they say, I love this. I feel like I have a calling to this. And we've seen parents go to school, become staff, and work with our company. They can't work with their child, of course, but they can work with other children. And so we've developed a nice, robust program. And so we've had good relationships with many of the ABA schools to provide that. And so, we love it.
You two are doing a fantastic job. So nice. I mean, there is so much of humanity that I see in your conversation today. And it feels so good in the heart that, yes, these kind of professionals are also there, and we are here to make a change.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if families don't get the help, they struggle, they suffer, and the children suffer. And if things go downhill for any length of time, they wind up in hospitals. And the hospitals are not equipped. The hospitals, unfortunately, medicate and restrain, right? And one of the interesting things that have happened over recent years, too, in my practice, I contract with various hospitals, and when someone goes into that place of stabilization because of severe, pervasive, self-injurious behavior, we'll actually provide the therapy, and we'll start in the hospital and transition them back to home and reduce the medication, get rid of those restraints, all of those things that hospitals do, and then continue those services. And those are the extreme cases, but that's part of what we do as well.
Yes.
Generally, when we get a call, it's not because someone's at their best day. It's they're at a point of crisis. They need help.
Wow, fantastic. So, to sum up our talk today, which has been fantastic, and the information and the insights that you both have given us, the parents and the professionals will definitely benefit from it. So, to sum it up, I would love to have one message from you, Doctor, for our audience, and from you as well, Tamarsha. Yes, Doctor.
Again, let me just say it's my honor and privilege to be on your show, Dolly. Tamarsha, I have enjoyed so much spending time with you and getting to know more about your story. I encourage every parent that there is hope, there is healing, there is life beyond a diagnosis, and that your child is unique, your child is special. And as a therapist, we are so honored to serve every family. This is more than a career. We believe that it's a calling. And so it is just my privilege to be a part of this dynamic trio right here.
The pleasure and honor is all ours, Doctor, to have you and Tamarsha on our show. Believe me. Yes, Tamarsha, over to you.
Well, thank you so much again, Dolly, for just providing, like I said, this platform where we can come on and speak. And thank you, Dr. Tim, for your insight. I mean, you have said some phenomenal words, and I'll take it to heart. And hopefully so many other families can use this information.
Yeah.
And I just want to help continue to provide resources and information for autism families and just help, like you said, navigate this autism journey and create beautiful stories, as well as I am helping to create stories with Mom Wears a Cape. And hopefully everyone can, get a copy, and I'll have so much information. I have my free nonverbal to verbal starter diet guide in here where I help to talk about how families can start with nutrition and how that actually helps to create that frame of support.
It's great.
And so together with Dr. Tim, Ms. Dolly, I just want to help provide resources and give hope and motivation, encouragement to all the autism families out there.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Believe me, I cannot thank you all enough. So thank you for being on the Dolly Show.
Our pleasure.
Yes.